Hello and welcome to Lazio World. Consider this your stoppage time. Here to discuss that 1-1 draw between Lazio and Juventus. I'm joined by a very special guest today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, name's Italo. Go by Tata Laziale on X, but happy to be here. It's been a few months.
Yes, thank you, Italo, for showing up on here last minute. Sean is actually out training the next Lazio signing in 10 years from now. The next
Oh
striker
yeah,
for Lazio, Leone, his son, currently out there with a little soccer session with his son that he's playing. But yeah, here to talk about this match between Lazio and Juventus. It was a 1-1 draw. Huge, huge match for those that maybe aren't aware. If you're a Lazio fan and you're not aware of this, or you're a Lazio fan, this match was huge. There were a ton of stakes in this match. This was a game that could determine a spot in the top four. It was a big, going to be a big factor in who gets that top four spot this season here, and ended up being a draw. We'll talk about the reparations of that here later in the show. But for now, I want to discuss just kind of initial reactions on what we feel about that match. Italo, how are you feeling about it? How do you feel about the match? What kind of emotions are kind of going through you right now, right after watching those 90 something minutes?
yeah. Honestly, I'm not feeling too great about it. Just the way the match went, the way we got scored on. Yeah, it feels like every other game for the most part. The last half of the season, we're just lacking something. And it's just like watching us try and score is it's like watching an animal like dying. It's just like it's hard to watch. It's just there's just not enough quality in the team. And yeah, I mean, I was disappointed. Um, obviously we get that goal at the end, but I barely cheered when we scored just because like I know it keeps us in the running for a Europa spot, which is important, but like we can't. There's just no way we qualify for champions with how tight the table is with Roma, Juve, Bologna. They all have the tiebreak on us, and like the way it is, like we're gonna end up on level points with someone. So we needed 3 points today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it very much felt sort of weird. It's a sort of weird match, right? Because we go down a goal early on, and we can talk a bit about that goal. What did you see there on that goal? I know that some people were maybe blaming Mandas a little bit for maybe not making that save, which is a very difficult save to make. To me, I saw more so Guendouzi stepping up, opening that gap for McKennie. What did you see on that initial goal that ended up, being the opener?
Yeah, same thing as you. It's just like it's this lack of attention for some reason at the beginning of matches or at the beginning of the second half. Like we get
Mhm,
scored on all the time in the
mhm.
first 10 minutes after a break. And Guendouzi, for some reason, steps up like he's doing some sort of offside trap. And McKennie's just like left alone completely.
Mhm,
And then him and Kolomuani were on just like the same page there. Colomwani cuts in, kind of fools. Yeah, I mean, it's tough for Romagnoli to do anything in that position because he's guarding a guy one on one.
yeah,
It's a perfect ball. He thinks he's running in, and
mhm.
then he steps back, and McKennie reads it, and it's a perfect pass. But yeah, I mean, look, if we're gonna rip Providel for every single, like if that was Providel net and he let that in, we would have been like Lazio fans would have been roasting him. So you got to
Yep,
have the
yep.
same energy for Mandas. Di Gregorio made an incredible point blank save on Dia off the post,
Mhm,
which was a much more difficult save than Mandas had to make. And like that's the difference between tying a match and winning a match. Like
mhm,
your keeper's there to make stops, and like
mhm.
he had to make that stop.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it definitely would have been, expecting something, pretty spectacular, but he has made those spectacular reflects type of saves
Yeah,
for Lazio already, so I do think that's a fair expectation to have of him. Anyways, the game goes on. We see Kalulu get a red card. We can discuss whether or not that was deserved. Uh, I
yeah.
personally
What do you think?
I mean, honestly, I saw it and I was like, okay, that's really a stretch.
Yeah,
But I was like, if they don't call it, I really wouldn't have been mad. But if
yeah,
they called it, I was like, well, that's a nice little gift to us. I felt it was more of a gift than anything, to be frank.
yeah,
What about
yeah.
yourself?
No, I agree. I think it was a gift. Like Tati obviously baited him, and
Mhm.
Tati's a great actor.
Mm.
So he definitely sold it. And like Serie A is just really poor at using VAR. Like
Mm.
I would have been livid if Lazio got a red card for that, which we have
Oh yeah.
this
Oh yeah.
season for sure. But like I was pissed off at it just because you could see Lazio throwing themselves on the ground, like trying to get PKs, trying to get red cards, and
Mhm.
we have 16 red cards for
It's
this
crazy.
season.
It's
16.
crazy. Yeah.
Like we so a lot of people complain about like these VAR decisions that have gone against Lazio, but really like without these Reds helping us out, like this
Mm.
game would have been lost. Um, a lot of those matches would have been lost.
Mhm.
So it's like again, like if you're only winning matches and getting results when it's 11 on 10, and you can see like you struggle to score a goal like
Mm.
when it's 11 on 10,
Mhm.
regardless of who it's against. We just yeah, but yeah, I didn't think it was a red.
Mm. Well, that red ended up helping us out a little bit, even though, as you said, we struggled a bit to actually capitalize on it. But in the very end, we saw Tati go up for a ball, win the header. It falls into Vecino's path off of Gregorio. He saved that initial one, right? He
Yeah,
saved it initially, bounced off of
look
him.
like
Vecino hit the rebound, and we drew. Vecino was a controversial sub, I think, for some as well to begin with. Take it off for Vela. But the match ended 1-1. We've talked about the match, the flow of it a little bit. What are your 3 words to describe this match as a whole?
uh not enough quality.
Mm,
And I mean like just technical quality, and you can just see it like nobody's comfortable leading an attack. Like I saw Rovella in the 61st minute just running down the pitch with the ball, and we were a man up on that counter attack, and he just looks like I could see the wheels turning in his head, and he just like doesn't know who to give the ball, whether he should shoot, whether he should lay it off, who he should pass it to, and he ends up just like giving a poor pass to Dia, who just kicks it right at the defender, and it goes nowhere. So it's just, and then you have Zakanya on the left, who's just like always cutting on his right foot, and he hasn't been good for 2 months. You have your best player in terms of like passes and being creative is a center forward. It's just like it's
mm.
crazy. Or
Yeah.
is a center forward and a sub who's 37 years old.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's sort of, my 3 words or less to describe this kind of bounces off on what you said. It's more of the grand scheme, which is just more of the same, more of same, right?
Yeah,
Just it really felt like you said initially, it just felt like we've seen this story, this play out exactly how it's played out all season long. We come into a high stakes match, there are expectations on there. The team doesn't really perform to the level that we want them to perform at, but yet do just enough to kind of keep us hanging in there. We're kind of
hmm
wobbling and feebling into sort of this top 4 race and battle right now. It's felt like that really for the whole entire second half of the season. We like Panama is a great example too. Panama, we're down 2-0. Obviously, expectations were we need to win this match. Coming up short of those expectations, but then we come in and tie 2-2, but guess what? It's just a little bit short of what we wanted, what we needed. And it's been like
yeah,
that. It's just enough to kind of keep us hanging in there, but never what we need to accomplish in order to really get that advantage and to continue going forward. And I want to ask you this: just do you see this more as being because it's become a trend? I think we both could agree that
yeah,
it's been a trend for this Lazio side this year, particularly the second half of the year. First half of the year is very different. But is this more so? You said lack of quality. are you kind of basing this more on we just don't have the players to really come up big in these situations, in these high stakes matches against top teams and must win matches against lower teams? Or is there something with the coaching? What are you seeing there that's missing?
It's just a player that can, or players
Mm,
that can deliver that killer pass
mhm,
that's confident on a counter, confident with the ball at his feet in attacking
mhm,
situations. That, like, the only one you see with that confidence is Pedro.
mm,
Everyone else is just like hopefully crossing a ball into the middle. Um, they just like, even when they're up a man on an attack, it's just like, whether it's experience, there's a lot of young players. Like, I don't know. It's just like you can see it. Like when Isaacson is going down the right side, it's like I feel it. I'm like, we're not going to score on this. Like
mhm,
it's, but yeah, I think it comes down to, I don't want to put it all on Baroni because I don't think it is, but it's just the players are, we just got a bunch of athletes in the team that are like ball winners and can run up and down, have high stamina and work rates. But beyond that, you have very, very few actual technical quality players that like are confident with the ball at the feet and confident making decisions in attack.
yeah, no, that's fair. I think I do know that Zakanyi's house is nursing a groin injury right now. I know he still has it, and he has for the past I think month and a half. So I do think that's taking a toll on his ability to perform. Zakanyi felt like at least early in the beginning of the year felt like the only
Yeah.
guy that we could create anything from. Him and Pedro for a while seemed like the only people that had any sort of confidence to take people on. Definitely a lack of sometimes we see Sox do that, but again, it's not something you can rely on consistently week in and week out. And he's also limited because he only really can only use his left foot, right?
Yeah.
So it's very it can become more simple to defend against him. But in today's match, is there anyone that stood out to you as a clear better performer on the team for the man of the match, in your opinion?
It's really it's really hard to say, but I'd honestly have to say like the only one that was doing anything and I thought had a sense of urgency when he came on was Pedro.
Mm.
He was putting balls in, taking shots on net, like cutting in on his left. Um, yeah, but yeah, it's a tough decision because I don't think anyone really stood out.
Mm. Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm kind of in a similar boat as no one was really particularly spectacular. I do think that our center backs were quite good for the most part.
Yeah,
Gila had some big stops, some big recoveries on some of those transitional moments. But it seemed at the end of the game, right, we were more worried about the attackers. Hey, we're a man down. Attackers, the ball's on your side of the court at this point, for
yeah,
that kind of match. So, um, I thought most of the attackers were really disappointing today for the most part, but I'm gonna give my man of the match to Hila. I just thought
yeah,
Hila had a really solid game. I don't think our backline was really didn't have too much flaws to it. I think they were kind of done dirty by Guendouzi making a shocking decision to try and press the ball and do his own outside trap, and they defended as best as they could against a Juventus side that has some pretty decent quality up top. So I'm going to go with Hila there. Now on the other side, we could probably come up with some more options of more particularly bad players this match. Who was your Bidonia of the match this game?
yeah. This one could go to like a bunch of guys, but I l- I love him, but I have to give it to Rovella.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
yeah, I undecided between Rovella and Guendouzi, but I could go with Guendouzi too. But I think just coming off as a sub again, not really like he won a few balls, but he was just like he had a couple chances where he could do something in attack, and he just
Mm,
yeah, like it's just frustrating because he's so good defensively and he can win balls back and he's got great energy and his short passing is good, but like he's just like you want him to take that next step in attack and Yeah, I just expected more from him today, especially just because not only was this a high stakes match, but Tudor literally w- called for these guys' heads. It was like, I'm not
Mm,
staying here unless you get rid of Guendouzi, unless you get rid of Rovella,
mm-hmm.
um, Isaacson. All three of those guys stunk today.
Mm.
So I I don't know. I would have, like, if that were me, like, and I knew the coach on the other side literally left this club because he wanted me gone. Like, I don't know. I expected more fire.
Yeah, yeah, no, that was definitely one of the storylines coming into this match was that Tudor, yeah, quite literally called for a lot of these guys' heads, basically saying they're not good enough for what I need. And I feel like those players are also quite, at the very best, mediocre. I would say for them, and I would say my bidon of the match was. Uh, I'm gonna actually go as Akanji this match,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna
that's
go as
fair.
Akanji because he not only is he one of should be our best attacker of the front four that started on paper, but I just and I don't know how much is the injury itself. I don't know. He's playing. He's played consistently, so he's good enough to be out there.
Yeah,
Uh, so I don't want to use that as an excuse, but I expect someone like him to really. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen Zakai basically say, "Just give me the ball. I will make something happen." In today's match, he received the ball, would pass it back, receive the ball, cut in, look a little bit, pass it right back. I feel like Tati of the front four that started was the only one who really was like, "Hey guys, like we need to win this game." He set up that. One moment I really love from Tati today was there's a moment where he was running back on defense, pushes Weston McKennie, who's a strong guy, to win that ball back immediately. And that's Zakanye's side. I mean, I don't even know what
yeah,
he's doing there. That's Zakanye should be the one doing that. He has some good tackles and stuff, Zakanye too. But my expectations of Zakanye being the captain, being the best winger, being the primary playmaker on this team should be just didn't show up today. Didn't show up today. Really created nothing. I mean, created
yeah.
absolutely nothing. And that's the team as a whole itself. And I want to ask you, do you think part of that ability of not being able to create today, the offensive lack of ideas, how much of that is Baroni? How much of that is the players? If you could assign a percentage to it, in your opinion.
It's hard to it like I gotta blame Baroni a little bit just because like it's his team, like it's his tactics, but like he started out with Deli Bashiru, um, and I assume that's because he wanted to play a little bit more conservative and have someone that can come back and play a little bit of defense because we just look like Swiss cheese when Dia and Guendouzi and Rovella and Zakani and Isaksen and Tati are all out there. It's like a 4-2-4 basically. Um, so, but yeah, it's the players and him like that.
Mm,
That's what it is. The thing is, like I don't know where you go from here. Like you got this unproven, forever Verona coaching guy in his 62nd year. Who's only coached like relegation teams before Lazio. Nobody really understood the choice. And then you give him this team, which is probably like the worst Lazio team in a long time. Like you know, even in the past, like we had like,
even worse than last season's Lazio.
oh yeah, at least last season we had like Alberto, and I know
But
Immobile was not at form, and I know Alberto wasn't great, but like Alberto, trust like there's got to be moments this season where you're like, man, like we could use an Alberto to come off the bench in this situation, like
mm,
and make one of these passes, like just make the difference.
mhm.
Like Alberto has like more quality in like one of his toes, I think, than a lot of these players, technically.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. It's both the players and like even when we had teams in the past, like those poor Lazio teams, like we had a Hernanes in the team, like
Mhm.
Mauro. There was always someone that had some sort of creativity to them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but this one, I'm just like, who's? you see Guendouzi, Rovella, and the right backs and the left backs just passing it around. We're either playing too attacking or too defensive. Like the issue is, coach aside, he's either got a bunch of guys in the box and Guendouzi and Rovella pushing really high,
Mm-hmm.
and we're vulnerable on the counter. That's why we go down against teams like Parma when
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "Hey, we're going to play more attacking this match," but we don't have the quality to actually put goals in.
Mm.
And then there's matches like this where it's like, "Hey, we'll play a little bit more conservative," but then you've even got less chances to score, and then you get a first half like we had, where it was like there was no opportunity. So I don't know. What do you think?
Mm. You know, I push back on that a little bit. Not so much the fact that Baroni doesn't have something to blame, but the fact that this team isn't capable of scoring. Because I want to look at some stats here, and I want to see goal. I was curious to see how many goals we have scored this season, and right now Lazio are ranked third in most goals scored in Serie A this season. Uh,
Sure. But you
and
got to break it up, I think, into the because this is a tale of two seasons, really similar to
It is.
Roma's.
It is. It is. It is for sure. So when I look at their goals per game, so goals per 90,
Yeah,
okay, what's that looking like? Lazio still remain in third for goals per
yeah.
game. So looking at it, generally the goals per 90 is a better sort of indicator as a whole rather than goals season wise. Because you're right, it is a complete tale of two seasons. It really is. But the tale of two seasons for me actually falls back on the defensive side. I
Yeah.
think we were actually defensively more sound first half of the season, and I'm sure this. I don't have the stats right now to break it up to prove it. I'm fairly confident we conceded less goals in the first half of the season than we have in the second half. But again, this team has scored the third most goals in the league and has averaged the third most goals per game in the league. And
Yeah.
if they're not capable, if their quality isn't there to score, the quality isn't there to create, how are we scoring these goals? Right?
Well, when we scored a lot of these goals, we had Tavares, who was in incredible form
Mm-hmm.
and actually playing. He
Yeah.
hasn't played or been healthy since, I don't know. It's been like since January. It feels like he's been gone
Beginning of the
for
year. I
6 months.
we haven't been able to rely on Tavares since the
Yeah.
beginning of the year.
Yeah. So since he went out, like the quality of the team and the chances created, because like he had, there was a point. It was like I think he had like 8 assists in 8 matches. And I think he's still like top three maybe in assists on the
Mm.
season and said, yeah, just with because he had so many so fast, but so many of our goals came from his side. But yeah, I'd love to see. I don't know if you could pull them up. I'd love to see the stats like goals for and goals against, or just like the XG in the second half of the season since February. Because like,
Yeah, that would be great to see. I can see home and away. And that's another actually thing to discuss is how poor we've been at home.
oh
Again, tale
yeah,
of two halves. I thought we were quite strong. We had quite a bit of a streak. First half of the season at home, it looked like we were tough to beat, and all of a sudden, it almost seemed that home became sort of a place that. And I think this is a real factor. So an old Charlotte Football Club coach, the team that I used to work for, Christian Latanzio, who's a Roma fan, ironically, um, he would say something about the team. There was a moment where the team was struggling at home, Charlotte FC's team, who has been historically very good at home.
mhm.
And he would say this thing that said, yeah, when our guys play at home, they play nervous because they don't want to disappoint the fans. And at the time, I was like, that's kind of ridiculous. Well, you should be more confident at home. You should be really, pushed by your home fans. But I kind of feel like I understand watching his Lazio side where he's coming from. Of like, there's a lot of pressure in the Stadio Olimpico. I mean, that place, if you're playing there, whether you're home or away, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of demands of playing for this team. And guess what? Both our coach and a lot of our players are not used to or don't have experience playing in such a high pressure environment like it is, particularly this season with Lazio. Do you think that is a factor in our home form?
um, yeah, maybe like maybe a little bit. for sure. It's just weird to see. And again, I think this also has to go down to the coaching because it's just unfathomable to have a Lazio side that is better on the road than just in general to see that. Like
Yeah.
we have more points on the road than we do. Like you trust this team more on the road than you do at home. Um, it's just you feel bad for the like I went to the derby, but you just it's got to be frustrating for the fans that are going to every match and just seeing this like us going down and like getting these ties, especially against teams like Parma. But I don't know. I what else could it come down to if not stress?
Yeah. No, I do think that when you're coach, the leader, right, the guy who sets the culture, I do think Baroni gets a little uh, shaken by the pressures of this job. And it's natural. This is the first time he's doing a gig like this. This is the first time he has these level of expectations set on him and the players that we brought in. They haven't played European soccer. They haven't played on a team this high up the table. They haven't competed for top 4 spots. A lot of the players that we have don't come from those backgrounds. And naturally, every player that joins a team like this at some point has to learn to deal with this. I think the question becomes, do we believe Baroni and the players are capable of learning and continuing to improve and sort of build that tough skin to be able to deal with the pressures and perform at home? That's a question for another day. We still have the season to go. My last sort of little thought I want to talk about here is you mentioned you don't really know where to go from here. You personally, what are your expectations following this match? Let's look at the remaining schedule here. We have 2 more games left, 2 more matches, one against Inter next Sunday, and then one against Lecce to finalize the season at home. Inter is on the road, 2 games. How are you feeling? I mean, what to you will be? Are you someone that sits on the side of, hey, we need to go all out, we need to finish top 4, or hey, I actually would prefer not to finish top 4 because we don't have a squad to compete in a competition like Champions League and maybe really go harder in league play next season? Where do you kind of lie on sort of this? I see both sides on
Yeah.
Twitter and my friend groups. Where do you lie on that sort of spectrum?
I mean, I always want to be in Champs League.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it feels like we were in Champs League 2 years ago. That was the year we got Guendouzi, Rovella,
Mm-hmm.
Kamada. Who else did we get that year? I'm trying to look at like the difference in Mercato because I don't think it's that different. Like I know there's like $30 million difference in terms of like Champions League typically guarantees you about 60,
Yeah, that's great.
Europa League 20, like half of that. So there is a difference, but like, did it really reflect that much of a difference in the market? I guess because we got the majority of this team, the core of this team came from that market, did it not? Like we Guendouzi, Rovella, uh, Tati, Isaksen, I guess, came from
That's
that
actually
Mercato
the
as well
part,
too.
yeah. What came in that next sort of flow of
Yeah.
players, yeah.
So, but that's not the type of market like I would expect. Like a lot of those, like Guendouzi and Rovella came out. Rovella in his first season, I think, didn't play as much. He was kind of a rotating player. Um, so I guess my point is like, okay, I want to see us make champions, but like, who we even gonna get? You know what I mean? Like, what are we gonna do
Well, I
if
think
we
I,
do?
I think you have a good. I think that's a fair point in itself that I don't believe people talk about is even if you can't compete in Champions League, you do get a huge financial surge.
Yeah,
And so is that enough to warrant say, hey, maybe we can't compete in Champions League, but hey, maybe we could have more money to build a stronger overall side for the long term. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Guendouzi, Robella, like I think these are really good signings that are these are guys I would play in a lot of other top 4, 6 kind of
yeah,
sides, I think, around the world, not just in Serie A. And these are high quality signings, right? The question marks were in Saxon. Tati came from La Liga. I mean, he had a year in La Liga, but was also still kind of like, how good is Tati? all questions to be, we need to talk about, coming to the Mercato. But that's still a while. We still have a few more games here. We'll talk about player stuff later on. But for now, I think that's a good way to wrap up the show here. Thank you so much for joining us today, brother. Any last words, any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, just thanks for having me. I hope we can at least qualify for Europa. Like, I really don't want to see us in conference or I mean, it's easy to say like, okay, let's not qualify for Europe and kind of like rebuild this team again and focus on one tournament, because we really only have a team that can compete in one tournament. But at the same time, it's a World Cup year. Like, players want to qualify for the World Cup and play on those teams, and they get seen by playing in Europe. So
that's a really good point.
Well, you're going to have to make Europe.
Well, I also argue this. We said we couldn't compete in 2 leagues, but we did finish first in our Europa.
Man, we did a lot. Like the first half of the season.
The first half.
We did a lot. Like it's the same story as Roma, but like it's a 38 game season. So I always say, like, regardless where you end up after 38 matches is like where you deserve to be. Like, that's the quality of your team.
That's
so
fair.
I don't really care about what happened. Like, it was a great run, but like the second half of the season has really been tragic for the most part. There's very little to celebrate, and like, you got to put a whole season together. So
all right. Well, thank you, Italo. Really appreciate having you on. Hopefully we could do more of these. Maybe we can bring you on for the transfer special, get a whole group discussion going on.
Yeah.
But
that'd be fun.
Whether we're in Champions League or Conference League or not in any league, sempre Forza Lazio.
Yep.